they've become, the masters, distributors of products. In order to move anything into the United States, you got to get it here, and one route is through Mexico, and so they've really become, expert at distribution. There's a lot of marijuana coming in that's grown in Mexico, but coca is still coming out of South America, and the distribution routes. You see, the thing is, people say the drug cartels. Well, there is really no such thing as a drug cartel, because that would assume like it's OPEC and they have some kind of monopoly. What these are a lot of competing groups and organizations that are constantly shifting, and alliances are shifting, and it's juggling for power, and so you have this kind of breakdown of what you would read in the media. Is you have the Gulf cartel and the Juarez and Sinaloa cartels and the Tijuana cartel. Those are the big Mexican groups, but they're really not that homogenous. We just want to implant our idea of corporate America on the narco trafficking world. It just doesn't work that way. At any given time, within these groups, there's rivalries and treachery and between them. And really, you look at the geography, that's what you should pay attention to. How would you get product A to location B? And you can look at shipping lanes, you can look at air, and you can look at ground. It's really more like a big fractured FedEx system. And then once they get it into the States, there's a whole group of people that are involved in selling it, which is the car salesman, and they're just selling drugs. But what really I think is going on is there has been a rise in the relative power of the Mexican narco trafficking organizations, because they have managed to build this expertise. And in order to do that, if you build any kind of narco trafficking organization, just like any business, you need certain things. You need experts on logistics, security, transportation, finance, which is a thing that people never really look at. If you notice, for the most part, they're always going after the product. They don't go after the money. If they would be really, in many cases, not surprised. They would be challenging some of the major financial institutions, because there's no way to move this billions and billions of dollars without some complicity of the, mainstream financial organizations in some way, because otherwise these products are worthless. Unless you can translate dirty money into clean money, you accomplish nothing in this business. So that's a big facet of it, that if you really want it, if the world was really serious about cracking down on it, they go after the money, not the product.
If we can stop in between here, and if you could maybe say something also about narco news, which was there was a lawsuit by one of the biggest banks of Colombia, National Bank of Colombia, if I understand correctly, a few years ago, almost 10 years ago, because of the allegations that you made.
Right.
The money.
Yeah, essentially. I wasn't involved in that. That was Al Giordano, and they sued him and the editor of a Mexican newspaper, because they essentially pointed out that there was a major Mexican financier who was involved in some of this stuff, and he tried to sue him. They lost because basically they couldn't prove that there was libel, and that also established for the first time, at least in the States, the First Amendment rights for Internet journalists. So that was a major landmark case, and really, Al Giordano will be the guy to tell you about it, but that is what they were looking at the time, is that the trail of the money. And what you find is, if you follow the product, you get into Juarez and the House of Death. If you follow the money, you get into Wall Street. And they deal with you different ways, but there's no way around it, and it's just logic that the money has to be put back into the system to work, and somebody has to be involved in helping to accomplish that. Otherwise, this doesn't make any sense. And that's kind of the two parts of it. But to your original question, I mean, there have been indications. I don't know what the route into Europe is. You may know more about that than me, but I know when the stuff I've investigated, for some reason, Spain keeps coming up. A lot of these guys end up in Spain, and that might make sense over there. I don't know, but I assume there's plenty of other ways to do it. But these organizations, it's not that they are international in scope, but it isn't like they're, you know, they have conference board meetings once a month and talk about it. It's just, you know, this group can benefit with cooperating with this group. They don't really, and it's always a really tricky thing. You know, they don't trust each other, but you know, the money is what it's about, and so you can arrange these things. And also, the bigger allegation that's coming out, and this was really brought out by Gary Webb when he wrote his series about the CIA participating in the funneling crack cocaine in the Los Angeles area as part of funding the Contras in the Nicaragua, you know, back in the 80s. The thing about that is there is allegations in all these stories I've covered of government complicity. Now, that doesn't mean, all it means is that the government or players in the government in positions of power have been corrupted, and that facilitates, you know, transportation, logistics, distribution, money laundering, and so forth. And these allegations, that's kind of the pattern that comes up. Somebody in a position of power that looks legitimate is crooked and facilitating the movement of money or drugs. And, you know, Sibel Edmonds, who I think made some news over there, I would imagine, was essentially alleging the same thing in relation to what was, you know, when you hear these things over and over, when you see, you know, documents and the same allegations or the same repeated patterns, you could come to two conclusions. Either it's a bunch of nuts that somehow decided to, you know, say this, or, you know, who never met each other, and it's just, you know, or there's something to it. The thing is, you can't really turn it into like there's some guy at the head of it making all the decisions, because it's really not like that. It's really more about human nature. And you know, in Mexico they have this saying, you know, you can you know, take lead or gold, right? And a lot of times your decisions are like that they have something on you. Either you did something a little dirty, or they got something on you, and they get you to do the next thing, or they put it to you that way that you'll do this, or, you know, and we'll pay you, or if you don't do this, we'll, you know, shoot you. And you know, that's a dynamic in the narco trafficking world. It's pretty ruthless. But the thing about it is, it's pretty. There's not a lot of hypocrisy in it, and I think one of the reasons that there's some glamour about it is the fact that it is ruthlessly very bloody, but the rules are very clear. And so there isn't this political thing about it that you see, you know, people getting up, whether it's your president or our president, saying the world is fine and we're winning, we're defeating evil. The truth of the matter, the world is much more nuanced. We all got a little bit of good and evil in us, and it's a matter of which side's winning out at any given time that creates the dynamic we're dealing with. And you know, the drug war is a mirror, if you will, of that dark side of human nature.
Very much agree with you. Could you tell us something, also a few words in short, about what's going on along the US-Mexican border in the recent months? We know that the Mexican president in December called in 24,000 soldiers to fight the narco traffickers in Mexico, but nevertheless there's been more than 1,400 people dead until now, and we hear also on the American news. Yes. Right.
That's a little harder. I mean, there's a couple theories on it. I mean, one of the theories is, you know, assuming the Mexican government's involved, and this actually is something the informant in the House of Death, who was pretty high up in the narco-trafficking world, said. Now, whether you want to believe him or not is another thing. He said the Mexican government essentially picks a side, and they will then make, you know, trouble on the other